The dumbest mistakes in your favorite animated movies. I'm sure most of you never noticed them. I was honestly surprised myself while making this video. Now you're about to see everything. Let's go. Inside Out. Throughout the movie, we can see that Riley's mom is almost always wearing glasses, but the filmmakers made one surprisingly noticeable mistake. In the scene where the new parents first meet baby Riley, we see them from behind. And in that shot, Mrs. Anderson's glasses are clearly visible. Just a moment later, the perspective switches to Riley's point of view, and suddenly, the glasses are gone. It's hard to believe that such a continuity error slipped past dozens of animators and supervisors, and Inside Out has more mistakes, for the most attentive viewers. For example, once again we're seeing the scene through Riley's eyes. On the floor, there's a long white cable. A few seconds later, the camera angle changes and we watch the scene from the outside, but now the exact same cable is black. And as far as we know, Riley isn't colorblind. Big Hero 6. The movie even won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2015. Take a look at this scene. Here we see the first meeting between the film's main character, the young genius Hero, and the head of the robotics department at the San Francisco Institute of Technology, Robert Callahan. As Callahan reaches out to examine Hero's invention, he's wearing a light blue shirt. But then the camera switches to a side angle, and suddenly, the sleeve turns maroon. The angle changes again, and the shirt is blue once more. Now that's some real magic. Hero might be a genius inventor, but it's hard to believe he's already created chameleon fabric. Zootopia 2. Did you notice this strange mistake in the movie? When the reptile offers Nick and Judy some worms to eat, Judy, being a herbivore, is obviously horrified and ends up swallowing a tiny worm in panic. Nick, on the other hand, is far less lucky. He gets the biggest one. He grimaces, starts choking, and looks like he's about to spit it out. But here's the weird part. In the wild, foxes actually eat worms, and it's totally normal for them. The directors explain this moment by saying that Nick is a very city fox, used to processed, ready-made food rather than anything natural. Fair enough. But did you notice this strange moment too? At the very beginning of the movie, Gary accidentally bites Chief Bogo, who immediately loses consciousness. Later, we see him in an ambulance where hamsters inject him with an antidote. But here's what doesn't add up. Even days later, Bogo is still in the hospital. Later on, Judy is also injected with the venom, yet she doesn't lose consciousness and can still speak. Gary then injects the antidote, and Judy recovers in just seconds. So here's the question: how does that make sense? Buffaloes are much larger than rabbits. Logically, the venom should have affected Judy far more severely, yet Bogo is taken out for days, while Judy bounces back almost instantly. Why is that? Wreck-It Ralph. One of the most memorable characters in Wreck-It Ralph is the hyperactive little girl, Vanellope. In one scene, the adorable racer hops into her car with a huge smile on her face, and we can clearly see that she's missing one of her front teeth on her upper jaw. Looks like she may have lost it during an especially intense race. But this little mystery doesn't last long. After a couple of laps around the track in her candy-themed car, Vanellope jumps out to meet Ralph and smiles again. And suddenly, the tooth is back where it belongs. Sure, we've all heard that doing what you love can heal you, but not that fast. Toy Story. In the third movie of the world-famous franchise, one of the toys suddenly seems to have mastered the art of teleportation. Specifically, one of Mr. Potato Head's eyes. In the scene where Andy takes all his toys out of the box, it's clearly visible that Mr. Potato Head is missing one of the pieces on his face. Just a few seconds later, Andy's mom walks into the room with a camera, and suddenly, the eye has mysteriously returned to its place. Sure, he could have reattached it somehow, but with such rapid cuts, it really feels like there simply wasn't enough time. There's another fun detail as well. Rex is shown with 3 fingers on his hands, even though most scientists believe that this species of dinosaur lost 1 finger during evolution and became 2-fingered. Maybe this T-Rex is just extra prehistoric. Now let's move on to the classics, because even they aren't free of mistakes. Cinderella. The original Cinderella by Walt Disney Studios was released all the way back in 1950. At the time, animation was drawn entirely by hand, and the industry didn't have nearly as many specialists as it does today. So mistakes in animated films from that era are a bit more forgivable. Still, this one is especially amusing. At the end of the movie, the joyful princess, who has finally found true love with her handsome prince, runs down the stairs with him in her wedding dress. In this scene, she's wearing a light blue gown with long, smooth sleeves. Cinderella waves goodbye to her friends, and just seconds later, we see the final kissing scene between the bride and groom. And guess what? Her dress has suddenly changed to white, with short, puffed sleeves. Apparently, by the end of production, the animators were simply exhausted. 101 Dalmatians. The famous animated movie about the spotted dogs begins with Pongo's owner, Roger, taking his beloved pet for a walk in the park. During this ordinary stroll, Pongo spots Perdita and her owner, Anita, nearby. Determined to play matchmaker and impress the new love of his life, the clever dog does everything he can to bring their owners together. First, Pongo tosses Roger's hat toward Anita. When that doesn't work, he takes things to the extreme and tangles Roger and Anita together with the leash so tightly that they both fall into a nearby pond. Now watch closely. Throughout this entire sequence, Anita is calmly reading a book, which she's still holding during the clumsy collision. But when the soaking wet characters climb out of the pond, a handbag suddenly appears in her hands, one that was nowhere to be seen in the previous shots. Now that's some impressive transformation magic. The Little Mermaid. The first part of the story begins with Ariel dreaming about life on land and being fascinated by all things human. This is clear in one of the early scenes, where Ariel and her friend Flounder discover a sunken ship deep in the ocean. She's absolutely thrilled by the find, especially when she spots a bent fork, having no idea what such a strange object is used for. When we first see the fork, it clearly has 4 prongs, just like a normal fork, unless, of course, it's meant for seafood. Forgive the dark humor here. Later, we see the same fork again, with 3 prongs, just as it should be. Looks like the animators weren't afraid to sneak in a little dark humor themselves. Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. The very first full-length animated feature in cinema history. Imagine this, Walt Disney Studios released it back in 1937, even before World War II. Modern animated movies have their mistakes, but what about something this old? For example, when the dwarfs discover an uninvited guest in their house, they rush toward her all at once. One dwarf, clumsy and slow, is the last to reach the door. In a panic, he pushes against it, and the doorknob flies off. The dwarf is thrown across the room and ends up under a pile of dishes. A second later, he jumps up and runs out of the house with kitchenware on his head. And the doorknob? It's suddenly right back where it belongs. Comment below if you spotted this or any other mistakes before watching the video. Subscribe and see you next time.